And so let's start. So I'm really glad to have you here, Bilquis Evely. And since it's the first time we speak together, we have to go back to the beginnings, especially that I don't know if everybody in France knows about yourself and your work. So I'm just wondering, in Brazil, where you were born, is it easy to have access to comics? Was it easy for you to have access to comics when you were a child?
I think we have a major comic book, which is very famous in Brazil, called Turma da Mônica. Every kid knows these books, reads these books since very... but for me, it was just that. And beside that, I always loved to draw since I was very, very young. I always loved to draw and to create stories with images. So when I was a teenager, I find some comics on a paper store. How I say? A newsstand store. And I saw a cover of a Supergirl book. And that took my attention because I thought the drawing is very interesting. This kind of style with colors and black lines. And I started to look at it and I think, wow, it is very interesting and something that speaks to me. So I started only to get in touch with this kind of books when I was a teenager. So it's very difficult to get this kind of access in Brazil.
And in terms of accessibility also, do you have a lot of Supergirl and superhero comic books, or is there also did you have access to European comics or stuff from Brazil also?
No, when I was young, we have a few, but it wasn't easy to find. There were some newspapers then that have it, but only in the how I say that, in the lugares mais nobres, noble parties of the city. It was not easy. And for the French books, it's even harder. I think the only older persons knew it, people who already read comics and books like that. But for me, I only discovered the French books, bande dessinées, when I was starting work in comics. And I don't even remember why I discovered it, but for me it was like a mind-blowing experience because I love the variety of the art style in here. And for sure, this is one of my greatest references, the artists from here. So I think this is one of the reasons my art line is a bit different from the major comic books from America.
And so that's a perfect question. I wanted to ask you, what are those references? How did you make your style while being an artist?
When I was a teenager, I started studying in comic art school. And my teacher was very much in love by traditional art and the classic artists like Alex Raymond, Al Williamson. And he started to show me some lines of them and how they are fluid and organical. And it was really interesting. I fell in love by its kind of style very quickly. It's like for the second time, just like in the Supergirl case to see that cover. When I saw, for example, Alex Raymond's styles, I quickly fell in love and tried to go in the same direction, like trying traditional tools like brush and nib pen. And I think I start from there, from this classic styles.
And so you made an art school to become a comic artist.
Yes.
What do you like about comics as an art form?
I believe is a good question. I believe it's because I always love to create stories when I am alone, and I think I am better with images than with words. So when I was a child, I like to play, I like to play with drawings and be on my own, creating things, creating characters, and I think comics, in a way, it's just like that. It's just me alone in my studio, creating a world and create characters, play with their expression and feelings and all the environment and backgrounds around the day. So I think it's like a way to be independent and to be creative and independent of other things. It's a easier way to create stories for me.
And was it hard to begin professionally? Because there are other very famous Brazilian artists.
Yes.
I'm just thinking about Eduardo Risso, who might be the most one of the most famous. Why is it hard for you to break into the American industry? Because I think that you started by being published in Brazil first.
Yes, it was really hard. I think to learn comics is really hard. I studied for like 3-4 years. And at first I knew how to draw when I was just learning techniques like anatomy and perspectives and backgrounds. But when I started to learning how to create storytellings and create pages, I was like, oh my God, I don't know how to draw. It's so difficult, so different from anything. It's very different of doing only one illustrations to conceive a page and conceive the panels that tell stories that make sense and that look good. So this was hard. And then to get a job, it was even hard. So I started with little steps. So my first work was like drawing illustrations for a English book. And then I started to work on a comic from Brazil called Luluzinha Tinha e Sua Turma, which is a kind of manga, Brazilian manga for teens. And it was amazing because I could learn a lot, like timing for the pages, to learn more about storytelling. And then after, I think, 3-4 years, I could get a job in the American market in Dynamite. And it took me a lot of effort, a lot of time in studying. So yes, it's a hard path, but it's worth it.
And so I'm really interested in what you just say about the learning of the storytelling contrary just to just the drawing. What would you say is the most difficult to master? Is it like the angles, the choice of the angles for each scene, or the fact that you have to master the time lapse which is between two panels?
I think it's many things that I needed to think before I started to drawing the pages. I think we needed to think about the flowing of the page. We needed to think about if an angle in a panel is in a way, I needed to do the second panel in a way that its flowing works. So everything is like tagged together. It's like working on a very, very hard puzzle all the time. So when I am planning a new book, I always plan the role issue, for example, in little pages like thumbnails. We say thumbnails. And I always have a hard time, like by hours trying to finish a puzzle that is very, very hard. I always finish the day with my head like, oh my God. But at the end, it's work. But yes, it's hard. Different from an illustration is that you will need to make that panels make sense. You are telling a story, and every details matters. Like, okay, this character needed to look that way. She's wearing that kind of costume or clothes. All the reference, for example, in Helen, I needed to search for a lot of reference, like in the 30s, the clothes, the furniture, the architecture. Needed to think about that, and then the posture of the characters, how they should look, which angle I needed to choose to showing them better, and to work from a panel to others. So everything is, I needed to think in everything at the same time. So that's, I think, why comics is so hard.
And there's another thing that also is, I guess, really hard to master is the last panel of the right page when you have to turn. I guess it's also with the script that you've got, but how do you know that you've got to do the panel that will make the reader want to turn the page?
Yes, usually I think working with Tom is great because I think he has a very knowledge of the right rhythm to panel, and I totally trust in his rhythm, So when we turn the pages, I know that he already thought about that. I can sense that, and also because I draw all the thumbnails in once, I can see the role story working very well, so I can see if it's a panel is from a page is working well with the other page. And my thumbnails are very detailed. I draw everything to make it easier to me at the end. So yes, it's all about planning well and to make sure it will work on the final book.
If I go back to when you were signed on to Dynamite, you got onto DC
yes.
quite quickly after that. Do you remember how you got to work for one of the big twos?
Well, when I was on Dynamite, I had an editor called Molly Mahan. She used to work on Dynamite, and then she went to DC. And at the time, I was about to finish, or already finished Shaft, which was my second series on Dynamite. I think she was still an editor there. Then when I finished, she went to DC, and they are working on a new book called Bombshells. Yeah. And she mentioned my name to the editor from Bombshells. And that's how it began. So they invited me to to do 2 issues to the series, and that was the start.
Did you feel some kind of pressure to go on and take with your art and with your style characters that have been known and seen for decades, or was it just some fun to get on board into this big party that is the superheroes comics?
I think I feel a little pressure, yes, because it's a new step. I didn't know anyone there. I didn't know how DC works at the time. And but they are so nice to me. The editors in DC are always so very nice. They always made the artists feel comfortable when they are working with them. And so quickly I feel very confident with them, and at the end, as all other works, I always try to focus on what I needed to do on the pages and the story I'm telling with the images. So I try to not to think too much about the other things. I just the pages are hard enough, so I only focus on this for now. So yeah, I feel a little stressed at the beginning, but then it's works pretty well.
And on the contrary, when you got on Legends of Tomorrow for the Sugar and Spike story, it was about two very little known characters from decades ago that you had to modernize for today. How did you do that? Did you have like carte blanche for doing that, or?
Let me remember.
It was a time ago.
Yes. Well, I was working on Bombshells. I did 2 books, and then they invited me to this book. They are starting to planning. And I had some great talks with the editor at the time. And he has some ideas, what I should do, some directions. And we created some concepts kind of together. I made some sketches and sent to her to approve. But I think I was very free in a ways. Like I tried to be more try to create something more classic, like and with simple lines, because I thought that would be a good match to the story, like because they are talking about so some old books make it funny of the characters. And so yes, it was a very good experience, mainly because since Dynamite, which I work on some popes with some popes characters, I learned a lot to do research about, for example, Shefty was a book that passes into the 17th. And I started to learn how to do a good research about their clothes, their furniture. And in Sugar Spike is almost the same in a way, because I needed to do some research about the books they are telling. So it was a fun experience too.
And how did you meet with Tom? So, because that's the big project that we've seen you on after at DC, you did many stories in some anthology and stuff. But let's say that Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is your big project next.
Yes.
So yeah, how did you meet Tom, and how did you guys did this project together?
Well, when I finished my previous book, which was The Dreaming, I was in the middle of trying to decide what to do next. I was like discussing with my editors in DC. I wanted to keep work with them. So in that meantime, I received a message from another editor from DC, Jamie Rich. He sent me a little text from Tom, which idea for a Supergirl book. And I thought it was perfect, because it's about Supergirl, which a character that I like very much. I have she has a deep meaning to me, and it's about Supergirl with a girl finding revenge in an adventure in space. And I thought, wow, it's perfect. It sounds interesting, very fun to do. So I say yes immediately to this. And I always wanted to work with Tom. I think he's very talented. And so Tom asked me what I want to draw in this series. He was about to start, I guess, the script. And I said, I'm kind of made a research with images that I think that would be good to the series, to be interesting to see in the series. Like maybe we can work with some cosmic visuals, and maybe we can have a Flash Garden look with fluids, lines, and a feeling of adventure, and also trying to create a poetic story, a little bit like Little Prince. So he said, okay, I think I can work with that. And quickly he returned with the amazing script. And so it's how it began.
I really like that in some scenes, for example, when they travel the first time in some kind of spatial train, you're drawing in the background several alien characters
Yes.
minding their own life. And I was wondering if that's up to you to draw them, or if that was in the script from Tom, or you can just have the freedom to make a scene really full of life like that.
Tom, he has a very direct kind of description, like, okay, a bus in the space, and then Ruthie is sitting in a bus. It's like something like that, because he is a great writer to give space to the artists create their own things. And yes, I remember, I think he said it's like a poor class at C class bus. And I think, okay, I'm going to do a very dust and messy bus with aliens singing and talking and all the mess possible. It was just random characters having fun. They had their own stories, so it was a fun moment.
And I guess you also had the creative freedom in creating all the planets that Ruthie and Kara go on, because I guess you didn't have to do researches if those worlds didn't exist before.
Yes, exactly. I think I have some research for example, how I should draw this bus. I research for real bus and then some spaceships and mix it together, for example, or try to research for some spaceships, some concepts of futuristic spaceships. And but by then, yes, it's all about the creativity. So if you ask me, how do you create these lilies, it's just like, okay, this lily is going to be like that, and this more round, it's more thin, it's more just things that was get off in my head at the time. It's how they look at the dance. So it just, yes, I was only have fun with some funny characters.
It seems so natural for you.
Yeah, it's the way it is.
But you're still putting a lot of details in the background, so we can really see the characters that are living in a very actual, very concrete environment. How much time does it take for you to just draw a page like that?
As this kind of series, I need to be very fast. So
fast.
Yes, I need to be
but you
very.
Can't be fast.
I don't know.
So much work to do.
I sometimes I get a little stuck in some pages, but I think the pressure of finish it in my head, pressure from myself, made me be quick. But I have like 7 weeks to finish one issue of 24 pages. So I finish one page a day. Sometimes, depending of the pages, I needed 1 day and a half, for example, but not more than that. So I don't know how I can do that. It's a little exhausting, honestly, but I could finish it quickly.
And so while you were working on Supergirl, that's when you decided that you wanted to do another project with Tom, and that's how Helen was born. Can you go into detail?
Yes, actually, a little bit after before I finished Supergirl, I was about to finish like the last pages. Tom emailed me about what I want to do next, if I want to work with him, because he loved to work with me, and of course I love to work with him too. And he asked me, what do you want to do? Do you have a character from the sea, or maybe do you want to create our own book? And I think it was it was a great time to maybe to get some adventure outside and try something new from the ground. And so how it started, and actually it started very similar to Supergirl. I have some ideas in my mind of things I would love to draw. So I made some research and create a mood board for Tom. And it was things like old illustrations, like from the 90s, illustrations for books of literature, something like that, with a lot of lines and with a classic style, and also send some fantasy references of I think it was some pulp covers. And then he was actually reading Wuthering Heights, and he was very into as well to the Howard from who wrote Qu'on. And so he took that my ideas, and with his ideas, he of what he was enjoying at the time, he just sent me a quick little text about one idea he had about a girl who had a father who was a writer, had a grandfather, and etc. And I thought it's amazing. And he said, yeah, okay, I will start to work on it. And then he returned with the Rolly scripts from the Rolly book. And I thought it was perfectly amazing. And then I started to work on it.
Was it, let's say, difficult to Kara design Helen and all the other protagonists? How do you know that you got your character right? That like you said, like, okay, now that works. She's going to be the heroine of the book.
Yeah, it took me so long. Actually, I took 3 months to create her. I tried a lot of different kind of hair. I since the beginning I thought those characters, they need to make this book work, they need to be very charismatic in their own way. Like Helen needs to be very interesting. Also Lilith has a problem in my view. It's not a problem, but she could easily be a little, you could easily not like her because she is very rigid, very conservative, and always trying to push Helen in some ways. And for me, I know she needs to be careful. She needs to be look at Helen with care. And Helen was hard to make her hair works, for example, and her grandfather as well. I try many times until I found them. So yeah, it was very difficult, but at the end, I think it's worth.
And was it hard also to mix these different elements of something more like Wuthering Heights and more like aristocracy and something very romantic and also very high fantasy elements? At first, if you just say it like that, it doesn't mix well. But you managed to make them well.
Yeah,
so, what's the recipe?
It was a fun thing. I like to mix things that are different. It was a little hard, mainly because I needed to do a lot of research for mainly the real world side of the story. I needed to do research for everything, like the clothes, the architecture, like I said. But at the end, it was like, yes, one thing also is because I want to keep Helen look like a vintage, with a vintage look, even she was in the fantasy book, in the fantasy world. So it's a kind of puzzle that I love. I love this kind of challenge to push myself and make things that wasn't supposed to be together to work. and make sense in a way. So I don't know if I know a recipe. I just was trying to follow in my instincts and my, I don't know, intuitions to that. So, and a lot of studies after that to make sure I was in the right path. So basically that was what I did.
And I met Tom King the last month, and I asked him about some scenes of the book in which there are like monsters, like giant snakes and stuff like that. And he told me, well, it's just Bilquis. I just type like there's a monster and you did everything. Is that really like how you guys did it?
Yeah.
Very
yes.
loose, and you just happen to know to draw majestical beasts like that.
Yes, basically Tom is very sweet. Actually, he always he knows how to put the right words in the script in a way that I can feel the right spots that he left in blank in a way. So yeah, it's about he give him the right space to be creative. So yes, it's exactly like that. On Supergirl was the same. For example, he didn't describe the space bus. He just say a bus in the space. And for example, Helen and his grandfather are climbing the mountain, but he didn't say how the mountain is. He just let me be as visionary as possible.
And how did you do the opening pages, which really looks like they've been done differently from usual, which really seems like this kind of illustration. Did you change something? Is it just the coloring that might be different? But it really looks also that you draw differently.
Yes, it's different. Actually, I made it with pencils. It was the first time that I work with only pencils and gray tones. So it's a totally different process. I even use a different kind of paper. I use a 100% cotton paper that seems a little bit like I don't know I forgot the name. It's it's not a screen, but the screen for paintings. Like there's the texture is like that.
Okay.
So there's a different kind of texture.
Like a canvas, maybe?
Yes, like a canvas, but it's not a canvas, but there's a different text than I use it to work on. I usually work on a smoother kind of paper. So only to trying to be more grit and to create like a painting aspect of style, different style.
That's also something very important in the comic book, because in the United States it was sold in single issues before. It's to make the covers look appealing. Did you have like a special indication for the covers, or was it all also just by your imagination, or you just wanted to have something very visually striking like that?
Yeah, no, it was 100% made by me and Mateus, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any kind of direction. I was just trying to create a figure that was interesting for a cover and in somehow echoes the right feeling to each issue. So, for example, the main cover from Glenad, each one is a second cover for the issues. There's a lot of swords and armor and other kind of weapons, because and she was drunk she's drunk, seems drunk in the cover. I tried to create something like a vintage pose in those vintage magazines when their model seems like they are posing but dancing at the same time. It was a reference from that. And their weapons and flowers is because there was a lot of weapons and in the garden in this issue. So I tried to create a image that echoes those kind of details. So I always try to have a thinking in this way.
So now there's going to be a Supergirl movie this summer, and I think it's one of the very few times that really a film references a specific comic book, which is yours. Were you contacted by DC or Warner for designs or adapting stuff, or did you just get a paycheck from DC?
Oh no, no. I can't say much about it.
I guess,
but I made some promotional pieces for they.
And a magnificent cover for the art book also.
Oh yeah. I love drawing this one because I had the chance to revisit. I don't know if it is word.
Yeah.
To draw my characters again and with the aliens, which was more fun than I expected it because. Honestly, I always a little afraid to redraw Supergirl. I don't know why. It's maybe because she's starting to be so important now, and I don't want to do a better job. So oh my God, it needed to be good. So when I was starting work on the cover it was so natural. It's so it's just so about our work, and that was, oh my God, it's so actually good drawing her, drawing Ruthie, drawing those aliens, and mixing with the characters from the movie too. So it was a delight. I love it drawing that cover.
And can you tell us a few words about just your work relationship with Matheus, which has been doing the colors on your different book? How do you function together?
We started working on 2015. We made some covers together. Then in 2000, but that's all. Then in 2018, we started to work on the dreaming. I asked to my editor to invite him to the project because I always have been a fan of his work. I discovered his work since the beginning when he was not professional yet, because the kind of palette he did, he always they took my attention because it's so different. He has some kind of he has a very, I don't know how to describe that, but it's almost a cozy colors for the eyes. It's so soft. I like it's nice to see it, you know. So and also he has a great job to adapt it to artists. He knows how to equilibrate his work with the artists he works. So when I had the chance to invite him to a project, so I did, and since then we keep working together.
So you've been a lot doing work for DC.
Yes.
So are we going to see you on the other side at Marvel, or are you staying with DC characters and creator-owned books?
Well, we never know. I made some covers for Marvel a couple of years ago, which was fun. I always since I was a teenager, I like DC most than Marvel, like a fan. I mean, maybe because I started reading comics because of Supergirl, so I have this feeling about the character, the S family. So, but as a artist, of course, we never know if I have a good opportunity, great story that will interest me. Maybe I don't know.
And so, what's next for you? Are you on a new project right now that you may or may not can be able to talk about?
No, actually, I am in the middle to trying to figure out what I want to do next. I was since I finished Helen, as I was working on other things that was not related to comics, and I started to miss it very much because it's what I love to do. I love to to create stories and storytelling and playing with characters. So I'm missing it. And right now I'm in the process to figure out what I want to do next. After all these years, I made many things I would like to do. Helen was its case. I basically made many things that I love in one book. So right now I'm in the middle of this process too. Okay, I made many things I enjoy. So I try to find out some other reason, some other kind of story that I would love to do.
Even for the European market directly, because I'm sure you might have some propositions for French editors.
Oh why not? I never had the opportunity to work on the French market. So yeah, maybe it would be a very interesting I forgot the word. A new experience.
Experience.
Yeah, maybe, I never know. Maybe.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Bilquis.
Thank you.
Pleasure to discuss with you.